Hey, good morning everybody, and welcome to the vlog. I hope the start of your day is amazing. As for me, I've got to talk to you guys about something really serious. I mean, this is like major serious, and you know that we've been open here at the Reptile for a couple years, and it's been amazing. I mean, the amount of success with people coming and just for me personally, being able to be involved in something like this and seeing so many people change their perspective about reptiles as they've walked through the door. Literally tens of thousands of people have been through this place, and a lot of them came in with that kind of mentality that reptiles were scary or whatever and left loving reptiles. Not to mention tons of people that came in and literally ultimately bought reptiles for the first time as a pet. And there's only a couple things that could derail the success of this. You know, listen, we've actually lived through the pandemic, for gosh sakes, and we've still been able to learn how to survive and do pretty well. Well, I tell you what, something pretty massive is on the docket right now that could literally put the jeopardy not only of the Reptile, but other reptile zoos in Michigan and potentially around the country down the road. And so I've just got to talk to you about this, and it's definitely freaking me out. So what I have here is a copy of the House Bill number 6455, introduced December 1st by Representative Ellison. Now, this is going to the Committee of Agriculture, and it is actually a Dangerous Reptile Bill Act that basically is going to change everything for Michigan if this goes through. Now, I'm going to walk you guys through as we go here of how the process actually works and what this actually means. But for beginners, this is the most damaging legislation that Michigan has ever faced when it comes to keeping reptiles. And I tell you what, guys, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to this potential legislation. And this is the thing that scares me more than anything when it comes to keeping reptiles, not only for the zoo, but for you guys and for just really the future of reptiles, is this type of legislation. Take, for instance, one of the things that would be outlawed would be the entire order of crocodilia, right? That means alligators, crocodiles, caiman, everything like that. So you wouldn't be able to keep alligators. And now, listen, I've said this in the past, I don't think that alligators are a pet animal that most people should keep. Most crocodilians aren't, for that matter. But a place like this, like a reptile zoo like this, certainly we're an educational base, or someone that runs an educational type of program that they go to schools, they should be able to have crocodiles or alligators in order to educate. If this law were to go into effect, that would outlaw our ability to keep such amazing animals like this. Now, before we get into, you know, all the other things that are on this list that would potentially be outlawed, I do want to tell you where we're at with the actual bill itself. For those of you guys that don't know how this system works, it is being introduced into the Committee of Agriculture, right? So basically what happens, it goes into that committee, probably 7 people on the board, something like that, on that committee board. They talk about it. If they vote yes to it, as is, and don't make any changes, then it would actually go to the House for a vote, okay? And if it passed the House for a vote, then it would have to go to the state Senate for a vote before it would be ratified into actual law. So we're still early in the process, and what you want to do is have the best ability to stop these types of things in committee, because once it gets out of committee, then you're dealing with a whole host of senators and House of Representatives as opposed to 7 people on a committee. So if we can convince those 7 people on the committee that this is a bad idea, that would be the best way to go. Now, chances are pretty good that the Congressman Ellison is not a bad guy. He just probably has some special interest pushing him, saying, hey, listen, we need to do this, right? And rather than looking at him as a villain, I would say that he's uninformed with this legislation the way it reads. It was ridiculous. You know, listen, I'm not an anti-legislation guy. I think that there's reasonable legislation, but there are widespread legislation like this that would really hurt people like us here at the Reptile and people that are trying to do good from an educational and conservational standpoint. You guys know that I don't keep venomous snakes yet here at the Reptile, but it's kind of been a thing that I've wanted to do in the future, is to keep a bunch of cobras and rattlesnakes. Again, not to play with them and cowboy them, but for people to actually see and learn about them, right? Now, I don't know if that ever would happen, but unfortunately in this legislation, not only would it outlaw all Viper Day all Elapidae, basically all venomous snakes. I mean, all your cobras, all your rattlesnakes, all your cottonmouths, gaboon vipers, everything would be outlawed. You wouldn't be able to get those. So if I ever expanded into the Reptarium and wanted to keep a venomous section, I wouldn't be able to anymore at all, period. Even some of the mildly venomous snakes are on that list to where they would no longer be able to be acquired or kept as well. So it is unbelievably intrusive, this potential legislation. Now, I'm not saying that we should be able to keep anything and everything that we want, but when legislation is passed, it has to be reasonable. And in my eyes, this legislation, which I've read about 20 times, is just overbearingly widespread to the point where it would kill the future of keeping reptiles. As a matter of fact, one of the things about this is you are grandfathered claused in. So we could actually keep the animals here at the Reptarium. I'm going to talk about how that would change the way we kept them, but you couldn't get any additional ones, and you would not be allowed to breed them at all. No breeding of those animals. If you bred them, you would be in violation of the law, which, by the way, could land you up to 90 days in jail, up to $5,000 fine per issue, as well as other things. So that would be a major change in the future, not only of the Reptarium, but certainly BHB reptiles. And believe it or not, monitor lizards like Elvis here, the water monitor, on that list as well. And basically what that means is that, yes, I'm grandfathered claused in with that, and I'm going to talk about what that means, but I couldn't get any additional ones if this law passed, right? So if I wanted to get an albino water monitor, I couldn't do it. If I wanted to breed chicken strip and abasuku, I couldn't do it, right? And the grandfather clause just basically just means if you have it before the law, you can actually keep the animals. But it's not that easy. It's not like you can just keep them. You have to register them with animal control in the county and the city. You have to pit tag them, which means you're basically microchipping each and every animal, and you have to keep a detailed record of every animal. Not to mention you have to talk about all of your caging, all of your plans. Let's say if there was a natural disaster, if something was hurt, you have to have a $250,000 liability, which we have. But does someone that's just keeping a water monitor as a pet want to chip it, go through all this process and keep a liability of $250,000? It'd be impossible, right? So for the normal person, they basically would have to probably get rid of all of their animals that were on this list, which is, again, is all venomous snakes, all monitors, all crocodilians, all mildly venomous snakes, and a whole bunch of other things. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous to be so overbearing on that. It's impossible. Basically, what you would do is you would take away our rights and our ability to keep these reptiles. Now, again, would the Reptarium survive? Yeah, we would, but it would cost us tens of thousands of dollars to actually stay in business, not to mention the yearly permit fee for every single animal in this place. And like I said, when we expand to 3.0, 4.0, whatever the case is, we wouldn't be able to get the majority of the animals that we want to add on, right? So this is really potentially not only going to affect the private keeper that's keeping a bunch of animals as pets, but it's certainly going to even potentially really affect our future here at the Reptarium. And in this legislation, or proposed legislation, I should say, you can't get around it. Even in the verbiage, it says that you can't get gifted, donated, any possible way. You have to show proof that you had the animals that were on this list prior to the law going into effect. If you don't, you are in violation, and if you're in violation, I've already talked about the potential penalties, which could be really bad. So now the question is, what do we do about this? Recently, Florida was kind of faced with a similar thing where they were going to outlaw iguanas, monitors, tegus, and a bunch of stuff like that. And a lot of my friends from, tikis, geckos, underground reptiles, a bunch of people got together and they really pushed to change the legislation, to stop some legislation and overturn other legislation by being kind of a unified group. Now, I realize that Michigan doesn't have the amount of reptile keepers than, let's say, Florida does, but we do have a lot of reptile keepers here in Michigan. So what we need to do is, number one, be reasonable, right? We don't want to attack hack anybody, but we want to call, write, email our representatives in Michigan, in particular the people on the committee. I'm going to put a link in the description if you're from Michigan. If you're not from Michigan, it's not going to help that much, but you could still send a nice letter saying you think it's not a good thing. The more we get influence on that committee, the more chances it dies in committee, because the best way to beat legislation is in committee before it actually goes to the House for a vote, right? So we want to make sure we do that. So we want to send emails, letters, phone calls, just saying, hey, listen, we think this is a bad idea, and we're willing to talk about how we can create legislation if we need legislation that is reasonable rather than unreasonable, if that makes any sense. The other thing you can do, again, link in the description to that. Also a link in the description to USARC. USARC is an advocacy group that protects the right for all of America when it comes to keeping reptiles. We need to support them, we need to join them, we need to have them on our side. I'm sure USARC is involved in the fight with Michigan right now. I have no doubt about it. I'm going to reach out to the president of USARC, who's a friend of mine, and just talk to him about what I can do to help things. So it's not over, guys. It's not like it's the end, but certainly this could change the future if things like this go on. And now you may be thinking, hey, that's a Michigan problem. It's not my problem. Let Brian worry about it. The fact is that when laws pass in Michigan, then they often are reflected in other states, and more laws start getting passed. So don't think you're safe because you're not in Michigan. Just like I didn't think I was safe because of what was happening in Florida. I was willing to do everything I do to help their fight. We need to stand in together, because again, taking our rights away, think about this, man. If this keeps going from state to state to state and gets passed, 20 years from now, there's not going to be any animal education when it comes to reptiles, because people aren't going to be allowed to keep them, and it's a tragedy. So again, links in the description. Do what you can, spread the word. We need to beat this, because hey, listen, I love this and I don't want this to change. So again, guys, links in the description to not only the bill HR 6455, but also the people you can contact to just kind of influence. Remember, be thoughtful, be kind. Attacking people does not help in this situation, but we have to protect not only the now, but the future of reptiles in education and conservation. So we need your help, so let's do the best we can do. Also support USARC. I hope that you guys will help out, because listen, I don't want the Reptarium to go anywhere, and the future plans are so big for us. This would definitely stifle the expansions of this zoo, and I don't want that to happen. And I hope that you can help us out. Can you do me a favor? Right up here, you can subscribe to my podcast channel. Also, we'll be talking about that, obviously. Over here, you can subscribe to this vlog channel. Turn your post notifications on. Have an absolutely wonderful day. We can win this together, and I promise I'll see you tomorrow.